Hello everyone. Before we dive into today's story, I'd love to ask for your support. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest content. Your comments mean the world to us, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts. Now, let's get started with the story. A glowing white sphere is floating in a pitch-black space. It's the size of the palm of my hand, almost as if the sun had shrunk into this sphere of light. From the sphere, a low masculine voice is talking to me about various things, but I'm only listening to it absent-mindedly, feeling far from reality. Why am I here? Is this a dream? A dream where I'm in this place that makes no sense, where a sphere that also makes no sense is talking to me. Are you listening? Tsukina Mizumori, I want you to go to a world that's different from the one you've been living in until now. This sphere, which keeps repeating itself and calling my name as if to confirm that that's me, calls itself God. This sort of thing has been popular lately, hasn't it? I think in the back of my mind. Transportation to or reincarnation in another world has been a popular concept in recent media. Despite having been told by my friends I'm such a bookworm that, bookworm, seems like a word made up just for you, I actually haven't read much of this genre. Maybe I've been wanting to read them, if I'm dreaming about it. Maybe I'll go buy one when I wake up. As I'm lost in my thoughts, the sphere in front of me begins talking to me again, its tone somewhat disapproving. Are you going to answer me? Dreams like this certainly don't feel as realistic after turning 33, or rather, this dream feels too childish to feel realistic. For a moment, I thought maybe I've been stressed lately, but recently each day has been fulfilling in some way, so that can't be it. There hasn't been much trouble at the job I've been working at for years, and I'm on good terms with my coworkers. My relationships with my coworkers rarely change on a personal level, but we'll talk at lunch, and occasionally we go out together after work to enjoy ourselves. The bookworm that I am, I usually want to read immediately after work, so these relationships are perfect for me. Today too, once work ended I went directly home and wanted to get right to reading, so I should have finished eating dinner and opened up my book. And then suddenly I was here. Hey, this is important. Will you actually listen to me? I am listening. Why do I have to go to some other world? As if in a good mood because I replied, the sphere started spinning around me. The light from the sphere wasn't that strong, but because everything else was pitch black, it felt painfully bright. Come to think of it, even though it's pitch black in here, for some reason I can see myself clearly. The selection is completely random. I've already sent several others to the world I'm about to send you to. You've been chosen, just like them, to become a savior and save the world. Oh, then if there are others it's fine if I don't go, right? Huh, as if taken by surprise by my response, the cheerful sphere stops right in front of me. The sphere floating in the air of course does not have any facial expression, but I know that it is surprising. It stays still for a short while, then begins moving frantically around my face in disbelief. I'm talking about transporting you to another world, you know. That's supposed to be popular in your world's books. The other kids went happily. Well, even so, it's fine if I don't go. I don't care if you want me to save the world or whatever. If there are already others going then they'll do it for you. No. It looks like the sphere has begun sweating as its perfectly round shape collapses a little, and it moves back and forth violently as if denying my words. Whether this situation is a dream or reality, my answer is the same. Why would I accept? I can't even believe that the others went. They were excited, so they didn't fight it. You're the first person to say no. Excited. Oh. Come to think of it, you said, the other kids, didn't you? Were the other people you sent young kids? Yes, they were all in their teens. Then why are you sending someone in their 30s like me? It'd be fine if they were all younger. If I were in my teens like those kids, then I might have gone happily too. But as you'd expect, when you get to my age, you think a lot more. Just hearing the phrase transported to another world is a little thrilling. The self-proclaimed God in front of me casually explained it earlier, but it sounds like this other world is like the world of an RPG. Me, playing a major role in a world of swords and magic, meet new people and going on adventures in a world overflowing with things I've never seen before. But once I think about it, I realize that it's certainly not all going to be so charming. You said it's a world with fighting, right? Yeah, that's why I'll grant your wish before sending you there. When this world's humans travel there, they obtain tremendous amounts of magic. With that power, even just by learning one type of great magic that only saviors can wield, you can bend the world to your will. That's why the humans of that world call you saviors. So I'll grant you anything aside from magic powers. Well, if you say you want even more advanced magic than that, I can do that. The other kids asked for strong weapons or improved physical abilities. Oh, and there was one girl who asked to change her appearance. I'm not good with pain, or rather I avoid situations where I might get hurt. And I'm the type of person to feel guilty even over something like killing a bug, so no matter how many weapons or physical abilities I get, I won't be able to kill any monsters or anything. I take the sphere's sudden silence as a chance to keep talking, and open my mouth again. You know, when you get to my age, you've already built a life for yourself. Yes, it's not like I love my work, or that I love the world I'm living in. But my life here is stable. I make a living, and have friends to keep me company. A new world certainly sounds thrilling, but that would mean completely starting over in a new environment. It sounds like it'll be completely different from the world I've been living in so far, so I'll have to throw away all of the knowledge and culture I've learned and start over, right? Meeting new people sounds nice, but I'd be starting over in a place where no one knows me. It's a little late to give up my house, my work, and all my friends around me to restart my life. Just thinking about it, there are too many cons. It's already a pain just to transfer jobs or move houses, but switching worlds would be even worse. Even so, I need you to go. It's basically mandatory, or rather it is mandatory. The sphere begins in a quiet voice, a complete change from its loud voice until now. Some part of its voice is forceful, and I know I am losing ground. Absolutely, absolutely, I already told you, I can't fight at all. That world's balance is maintained just by sending humans from this world. It's a world where, even if you don't save the world, just being there as a savior with lots of magic will keep the world stable, and bountiful resources will be born. Since the others I've already sent will fight and learn great magic, I personally don't mind if you just live there quietly. Now I really have nothing to argue. At this point, there's no sign that I'll wake up, and I'm starting to sense that this isn't a dream. The only thing that can pull me out of this incomprehensible space is the self-proclaimed God in front of me. And at this rate, it doesn't seem to have any intention of returning me to my original world. But if this is reality, then if I mess up here, that might cause problems for me later. After giving me a moment to wonder what to do about it, the sphere spoke up apologetically. I'm sorry, but I have no choice but to send you to the other world. In exchange, I promise that I'll grant any of your wishes. Don't you have one? A dream you had in your old world, for example. If it's something that can come true even in a different world, then I'll do everything I can to make it happen. A dream. I've been earning my living on my own, with no desire to get married, and I've never even thought about having kids. My time to myself is so valuable that you could say I've never felt it necessary to spare any for others. Going out with my close friends sometimes was enough engagement with others for me. So for my life plans, I thought I would stay single and work until I retire, and then maybe I'd open a small shop. A small book cafe with my favorite things, cooking and reading. A store with my favorite books from around the world, surrounded by quiet antiques. I wouldn't even need to profit, I just want a relaxed shop where a few regulars come to read, and even if people are there, I can read with them. Though it'll be in another world, is this sphere saying I can make that dream come true right now? I've already made a plan, and I've been saving, but I thought that was just a crazy dream that would never come true. Now that I think about it, aren't all of my savings from these years meaningless now? That makes me a little angry. In either case, if I have to go, There's no reason for anyone to complain if I take as much from this god as he took from my life's plans. There shouldn't be anything wrong with taking as much as I can as compensation for suddenly being tossed into a new world. If I don't, I'll be out in the cold in a world I don't know anything about, a dangerous world with monsters living in it. It's really okay for me to just live a quiet life, right? Yes, that's fine. You said you'd do anything, but can I wish for as many things as I want? Yes, but, well, everyone until now only wished for one thing each. Huh, you didn't tell them they could ask for multiple things. Why, they thought one was enough, and so they just wished for one thing and went, right? No, I think it was just a simple misunderstanding. This is bad. This sphere seems like a good person, but that might not actually be the case. No, the moment it showed up with this story, it proved it wasn't a good person. This is so complicated that it's best to just try wishing for something. I try to remember what God said about that world. There are monsters, a demon king, and several countries. If there are warring countries, then there are allied countries. Is the currency, language, and fundamental knowledge the same no matter which country I'm in? Yes. How do people know about our, or the savior's existence? Most countries want saviors. I mentioned it before, but when humans from this world travel to that world, they obtain tremendous, no, you could even say phenomenal amounts of magic. There's something every country is desperate to get their hands on. So if, for example, I didn't tell anyone, would people know I was a savior? Upon arriving there, the savior's mark will appear on your body. If that's seen, people will probably figure it out. Mark, you don't mean like a tattoo, right? I want to avoid pain or any flashy symbols. It won't hurt, and it's nothing flashy. It's more like a design that will appear on you. Then can I choose where that mark appears? That is possible. Then, somewhere it won't stand out, can I put it under my hair or something? Like, on the back of my head under my hair, so even if I put my hair up it won't be seen. I lifted up my hair and pointed to a place on the back of my head. My hair goes just past my shoulders, and I've never dyed it before, but it'd probably be perfect if my hair was black to hide that savior's mark. Understood. But that'll only work for normal magic. If you use great magic, it'll glow and stand out. I'll keep that in mind, and I'll make sure never to use it in front of people. For now, it looks like I've gotten the fundamental culture of that world and how to hide that I'm a savior. No matter how much it's asked of me, the fact that I can't fight won't change. And live in within that country's territory, somewhere sort of secluded from any towns. Like in a forest that doesn't stand out too much. There's a thick forest somewhat away from the towns, so I'll put it there. Briefly imagine your ideal cafe in your head. I'll make one based on that. But since the forest is dense, I don't think you'll get many customers. It's not like I really want to work that much. I just want to be able to enjoy my cooking and reading. Oh, and money. You have a lot of requests. Well, alright. How about this? As soon as God said that, a sparkling antique-style locket appeared in front of me. The pendant is entirely silver, with a flower design atop a diamond-shaped locket, threaded onto a thin chain. In the center of the flower sits a small, translucent blue stone. As I reach out to the gently floating pendant, it drops into my hand. It's lighter than I expected, and simple but a nice design that I like. The metal of the pendant, the perfect size to fit in my hand, is cool against my skin. I open up the locket, but there's nothing inside. I look over at the sphere, not knowing what to do with this pendant. When you squeeze that, a search screen like on a computer will appear in your mind. You can type letters just by thinking of them, so you'll be able to summon things using that search bar. Because it's God-made, it won't break, and to anyone but you it'll be a normal necklace. Money included, you'll be able to summon most anything. This is a pretty useful necklace, even if I end up in an unsettling place. Worst comes to worst I can just hide away in the cafe. From now on, this pendant is my lifeline. I squeeze it tightly in my hand. As long as I have this, I'll be okay. But what if I lose it, or if it's stolen? Is there any option for having it automatically return to me if I lose it, or it's stolen, and ensuring that no one doubts the things I summon with it? I'll add them. It feels like the sphere floating in front of me is getting a little tired from my thoroughness, but this isn't any time to hold back. This is a matter of life or death. It's clear that if I don't confirm everything I can think of, then whatever happens next will. You said that I'll have lots of magic, right? What kind of people can use magic? Ho! The sphere that had been quickly answering all my questions until now let out an interested sound, and began moving around me. Is something wrong? No, I was just thinking that out of all the people I've sent to that world, I've never gotten that question before. I will give anyone what they request, and answer anything they ask. But I don't give things people haven't requested, or provide detailed answers to questions that haven't been asked. In other words, none of the people you've sent know anything about magic. That would be the case. As for your question, you saviors have magic, but don't know any spells. But you haven't learned a single spell. In that case, how do you learn magic? You have to be taught by the people living there, or teach yourself with books. Great magic too. You'd have to find fairly old books and learn from them. The theory of it is difficult, so you probably won't be able to use it just from reading about it. Even if you are a savior, you'd need a considerable amount of studying. And I said this before, but to me, the great magic that only saviors can learn is like a bonus. But for general spells, if you practice a few times then you should be able to get them. The more you use them, the more powerful your spells will become, and the more the amount of magic you have will increase. Please make me able to use defensive great magic from the start. Magic I can use to protect myself in an instant. This feels like the best thing to raise my chances of survival. It feels like I'm floating, and my head is spinning. Then I'm sitting on the floor of a room somewhere. There are big magic circles above my head and below my feet, giving off sparkling particles of light. My legs are a little unsteady, but I stand up and look around the room. There's nothing in the room, but the walls and floors are new, shining as they reflect the light. It smelled like a brand new building. God said he would build this based on the image I had in my head, and true to his word, this is the second floor, which seems to be the living space. I start with the door closest to me and go in order, my footsteps speeding up a little as the anticipation in my chest builds up. On the second floor were 3 Western-style rooms and a bathroom. All of the rooms had cozy white floors and walls, and plenty of space and ideally designed closets within them. For someone living alone, it was almost too big. I walk over to the window and reach my hand towards it. It's colder than I expected against my fingers as it opens. As soon as it's opened, a cold wind blows inside, making my body shiver as I hug my arms. The sight from the window was a completely white expanse. Snow. I can see my breath, and everything outside is covered in a thick layer of snow, and the wind feels like it's going to freeze me. According to that orb, God, this kingdom's called Othel. It's a large country surrounded by high walls and protected by snow. It's apparently pretty peaceful, thanks to the night from monsters. It's so big, you'd think it was built for a family, I think, before realizing that as I spend more time here, books would start eating up the extra space. I could probably even fill an entire room with bookshelves. Oh right, the first floor should be the cafe. I look around the room again and consider how I'll arrange the furniture. I hesitantly close my eyes and squeeze the pendant. I imagine pressing the search button, and a variety of furniture appears in my head. I'll line up more of those bookshelves, add some tables and chairs, decorations, cookware, some other furnishings. The furniture and decorations are all made with warm, antique designs. Oh, I'm planning to lend books to customers. Could I use magic to keep them in mint condition? I need a magic textbook like this one. Plus, a magic book that tells me when guests will arrive. Fireplace too enchanted to keep the fire from spreading. Now I need a stable. After all, horses are this world's most common mode of transportation. Stable with fountain and pasture with enchanted to self-clean and deter theft. I need a magic barrier to keep the cafe warm. I briefly looked around the inside of the cafe. An antique retreat-like book cafe, brought together by a subdued color. My face automatically breaks into a smile. Alright, time to choose some books. I got so excited, I forgot that I won't have customers anytime soon. I should do some reading and start studying magic. I had pulled out the book I was looking for, when I heard a chime that I'd never heard before, alerting me of a customer. A cold breeze blows inside from the slowly opening door. Closing the door as quietly as possible, the person pulls off a hood to protect from the snow. Black hair that fell just above the shoulder swayed in the breeze, and composed gray eyes slowly glanced around the cafe before looking at me. Welcome. Relieved that my voice still works, I look at my first customer. The book is clutched to my chest. A man, possibly a few years older than me, around the same decade. With crisp features, he is good-looking in a way that could be called handsome. He gives off a somewhat intimidating, but honest impression. He suddenly went silent and thought. How did a cafe on the outskirts of the city that he had never noticed? She made it over there safely. Lately, I've sent weirdo after weirdo. That last girl I sent posed a different problem. She actually wound up in Othel, too. Well, I'm sure everything will be fine probably. Welcome to my book cafe, sir. At the sound of my voice, he looks at me and his body stiffens for a moment. His eyes seem wary. After a moment, he speaks to me. I left my horse in the paddock outside, but, is that all right? Yes, there's a barrier to prevent any theft, so please let it run around freely. Or if you don't want to release it, you can tie it up in the stable at the edge of the paddock. He muttered, well, but that's a high-level magic, how can she do this? I'll leave her as is then. The sign outside said this is a book cafe. Yes, you are free to read any of the books here. The books in this cafe are enchanted so that they won't get dirty, so while it may not be very good manners, you can read while eating here, I say, throwing a little joke in, and his stiff demeanor relaxes a little, a small smile breaking out onto his face. His gaze moves to the bookshelves in the cafe, then to the book in my arms, his eyes widening. As he opens his mouth again, his voice wavers a little. That book, wasn't it already out of print? Yes, I desperately wanted to read it and I finally got it, so today's the first day it's in the cafe. Would you like to read it? Yes, of course. As if that tense air had never existed, he smiles happily. I react the same way upon finding a book I want to read, so I can understand how he feels. You can sit wherever you'd like, and because customers rarely come, feel free to read as much as you'd like, because you are my first customer, I tell him, handing him the book in my hands. Taking the book happily, he looked around the cafe, before moving to a seat in the corner. Making a mental note, I handed him a menu. Since this is a cafe, I made certain to offer a variety of teas and coffees, and mainly added light meals to the menu. There are also plenty of meals that are easy to eat while reading on there. I'll have a sandwich with tea. Of course, I'll have it out shortly. I readjust my ponytail from over my shoulder to behind my head and wash my hands. I headed towards a pantry I made in a blind spot from the cafe interior, and summoned ingredients with my pendant. Since I'm the only one who's ever tasted any of them, everything here is made to my taste, but I think they're all good dishes. I hope my first customer likes the cafe and the food here. Now for the finishing touch. Healing magic. All done. Carrying the sandwich and a pot of tea, I made my way to him, where he seemed to be focusing intently on the book in front of him. Remembering the times when I'm in the middle of reading, I hesitate to call out to him, but I have no choice. I'm sorry for the wait. You can have as much tea as you'd like, the teapot won't run out of water. Oh, thanks. The pot is enchanted not to run out and is also enchanted to not cool off, no matter how long it sits. I place the teapot and a small jar of tea leaves on the table along with a cup and the plated sandwich, and offer him a pocket watch. This watch has an alarm on it. There's no time limit, so you can stay until closing if you'd like. But if you need to leave by a certain time, then please use this. That way it will only ring in your head. I appreciate it. Thanks. He replied. I'm running this cafe casually, so I'll just be reading or working, but don't mind me. You can read as many of the books in the cafe as you'd like. I turn away as he picks up the sandwich and returns to the world of his book, and return to the counter myself. Just as he took a bite of the sandwich, he made a surprised face, before smiling a bit and continuing to eat, so I hope he liked it. I don't really like working very hard, but having a customer come like this still makes me happy. Listening to the sound of the pages of a book being turned, I returned my gaze to the book in my hand. He ended up staying focused on his book until his alarm rang, but it looks like his alarm went off about halfway through the book. When he paid for his meal, he was very surprised at how cheap everything was, but because I can summon as many ingredients as I want for free, I only set the prices high enough to not be suspicious. Having paid, he looked at the book in his hands, before eventually noticing the stack of books next to the register, a look of astonishment appearing on his face. He picks up the topmost book, his voice strained as he asks, "This one too? It was only supposed to have a limited number of copies." "Yeah, I happened to end up with it, so I thought I'd put it in the cafe." After staring at the book, he looks around the cafe, his gaze running over each of the bookcases, and his eyes brighten. He then spoke, "I'm going to come back tomorrow. If I didn't have to work tomorrow, I'd want to stay longer. I'm in the middle of this one, but would it be possible for you to put it aside, so that no one else borrows it?" I smiled and replied, "Yes, I can do that. This cafe is entirely a hobby for me, and I haven't put any advertisements out, so even though it's been some time since it opened, you're my first and only customer. I think it's unlikely that anyone else will come." Is that so? Well, it certainly is deep in the forest. Since I can leave my horse untethered, I'll come again. And the book? I'll give you a bookmark for that. Please write your name on it and leave it in the book, and I'll hold it at the counter until you come back. Thank you. If that's all, then I'll be back tomorrow. Yes, I'll be waiting. Thank you very much. The bookmark in his book has the name, Il, written on it. Il-san, I'm glad my first customer seems to be a good person. At first he seemed intimidating, but he turned out to be calm and charming. He was polite too, so maybe he's just the type of person who has an intimidating atmosphere. Personally, he looked to be just my type. I don't know if he'll actually come tomorrow, but for now I'll start cleaning up and getting ready to close. Maybe I'll make a slightly nicer dinner as a celebration of my first customer. He leaves with a relaxed smile, and I don't feel any of the tension from when he first arrived. I wonder if it was stress, or if he was just tired. Riding my beloved horse on the path back to the castle, my mind races with everything that's happened today. A smile broke out onto my face as I thought, I really found a nice place today. As someone who's been teased for being a bookworm, that book cafe was a gold mine. The atmosphere was nice, and the food was delicious and just as I liked. The owner of the cafe was calm and friendly, so I'm looking forward to returning after work tomorrow. She said it's been some time since that cafe opened, but I wish I'd found it sooner. But as soon as I see the castle from a distance, that happy feeling withers away. It'd be nice if the savior followed her example. The castle where the king who rules this country lives, and the place I live as a member of the knights. The place where a young savior girl who it is said will save the world has arrived. I let out a sigh, and am reminded of the sour morning I had because of her. The young so-called girl was harassing the chefs. She shouts, "Why are there carrots in my soup? I hate those." The poor chef can defend himself, he only muttered, "I didn't know." Are you talking back to me? Remember, you little worm, I'm the savior. I'll do whatever I want. No one in Othel can defy me. Finally, when I came back to the castle, I asked from my subordinate Bjork. "Hello Bjork. What did I miss while I was away? Anything to report?" Bjork replied, "You first. Did you and your horse finally get a chance to relax? You certainly look much better." I instantly remembered her face, and my mood again lit up. And I ask, "I do." Bjork leans on the window and sights. He then spoke, "You've gotta be kidding me. Just 'cause the savior got scared by a horse and fell, now we can't even let them run around." The man standing next to me spats. And after she was the one who came into the horse grounds unannounced. Is she trying to stress out the horses until the next monster subjugation? I added. The incident with the horses was completely unprecedented. I'm working with the princess to figure out the savior's whereabouts and find a time and place to let our horses out, so we're managing for now, but are you okay? Are you sure it wouldn't be better to leave your horse with me? You wouldn't be able to hide taking 2 horses out at once. Don't worry, after I finish the work for the knights, I'll be going on a long ride. But you're always looking forward to spending some time reading once work's over. It must be stressful for a bookworm like you. I'm more concerned about my horse's stress than mine. It's not that bad. You don't have as much time to eat either, right? You'll collapse before long. I can manage that much. You too, don't get so irritated that the princess hates you. You finally got engaged, after all. Yeah, I got it. It'd be nice if the prince would pay attention to his surroundings like before. To think that despite being lectured by the king, queen, and his older brother and younger sister, he's still in a trance with the savior. What a pain. Looking towards the source of the sound, it's the savior clinging cheerfully to the prince. Upon seeing her, my brows furrowed and I let out another heavy sigh. My sigh comes at the same time as the one next to me, and my friend's gaze is locked on the prince and the savior as he opens his mouth irritatedly. She's so conceited, so what if she's a savior? Don't let anyone hear you saying that. Bjork continued. Everyone's thinking about it, they just won't admit it. Since the prince is head over heels for her, no one's bringing it up, but even though it's been nearly half a year since she got here, she's just spending all her time hanging around the prince and hasn't learned a single spell. But on the other hand, it'd be bad if another country took her, so we can't just throw her out either. And we can't have her convincing the prince to run away with her to another country either. Just thinking about it irritates me. I don't know what I'd do without you, Ill. If I didn't have anyone to complain to, I'd go insane. I opened my mouth and spoke. I feel the same, Bjork. I hope we can find a way to solve this all. It's about time to get back to work. Bjork continued. Today we start the real work. Not only are we unable to rely on the savior, but we have to reinforce our patrols, too. I'll leave that to you, right, Knight Captain Seal. I replied. Stop with that ridiculous formality, Bjork. You're the vice knight captain after all. I pat Bjork, who called me not by the usual nickname, Ill, but by my full name, Seal, on the back before heading towards the knight's main office. Both in battle and in life, I'm always being saved by my friend. The maids were chatting about something and looked tensed when we asked, is there was any problem. They replied nothing. The palace atmosphere was ruined because of Savior. I muttered, yeah, it'd be nice if this tense atmosphere would clear up soon. The savior who arrived at this castle was a beautiful young girl. She is one of the saviors said to sometimes descend upon this world from a different world. It is said that any country that obtains a savior who has learned the powerful magic called great magic would even be able to unite the world with that power. I heard the several saviors who descended upon this world are working to learn great magic. Othel is a country with no interest in uniting the world, but everyone is still happy that there is a savior in their country. Not only will her existence alone suppress invasions by other countries, but the second prince of this country has fallen in love for the first time, with the young savior girl. But it was only at first that everyone welcomed their relationship. If she were to learn great magic, marry the prince and rule the country with him, the peace in this country would be guaranteed. Apparently, she hates studying. We may not have enough magic to use great magic, but now I know there really is no point in just having magic. No matter how much time passed, she never learned a single spell. She's refusing to learn even basic spells that young kids can manage so long as they have some knowledge of magic. More so, it was for the sake of the second prince, who hasn't had any romantic relationships despite his age. But no matter how much time passed, she never learned any spells. She would avoid it by saying she doesn't like studying, and crying like a child as she refused. And then she started to use the fact that she's a savior to work towards her own selfishness, sneering at those of us who couldn't leave. She rejected the maids and whined to the prince that one of the maids had been mean to her. The maid, who had worked here for many years and was overflowing with loyalty, had only given her a brief word of advice about her table manners. We lied to her that the maid was fired, and instead switched the maid to exclusive work deep in the castle where the girl couldn't enter. She complained to the prince that his retainer had bullied her. All she had done was refuse to hand over her precious necklace that the girl said she wanted. We gave the girl an identical copy and had the prince's retainer switched to a different job. When that savior girl went back to her room, she laughed. What a fool! How stupid to get herself fired over this silly little thing. The savior has no idea what happens to the maid that no one fired her. But she thought she achieved something by destroying a poor maid's career. She laughed and tossed that maid's beloved necklace. She looked at her reflection in the mirror and spoke, "Wow, I am so cute. Thanks to this face, I am really cute. Why bother learning magic I don't need? Since I'm pretty and important, I'm playing life on easy mode." Being savior rules. Meanwhile in the book cafe, Sukina was having fun with her book, and enjoying her tea and snacks peacefully. Then suddenly she thought, I wonder if that night will return. My first customer, a man named Il, came back to my cafe the next day at the same time. Unlike yesterday, when he arrived seeming very tense, today he seems very excited. As another person who loves books, I know that feeling well. Welcome. Excuse me, could I borrow the book you were holding for me again? Yes, of course. Here you are. After I handed him the book I had been holding onto, he sat at the same table as yesterday. I explained that there was also a private room, and he hesitated for a moment before saying he'd move if someone else came. The seat he's sitting at is near the fire and is in a very good place for getting new books from the shelves, so he probably likes that seat. I hand him the menu, and after looking at it for a short time, he orders several things, all of which are more filling items. Maybe he just wasn't very hungry yesterday. I bring him enough things to bury the small one-person table, and after eating the main meal, he begins reading while eating the last things with one hand. It makes me glad to see him take one bite and be surprised before continuing to eat with a smile. As someone who enjoys cooking, it makes me very happy when people enjoy eating what I've made for them. I look away so I don't disturb his reading, and open my own book. From then on, he came almost every day. He always comes to the cafe around the same time, once it gets to evening, after he's finished working for the day. He leaves at different times, but he always seems to want to stay as long as possible. It was over a month after he came to the cafe, around the time when we had begun talking more and more. Recently, while I'm making his order, he'll sometimes come to the counter and talk with me. We always talk about books, telling each other which ones are interesting or which ones we'd recommend, things along those lines. He spoke. The books you stock always look interesting. Every time I come I spend a long time deciding which one to read next. I was thrilled so I replied. Me too. All of the books you've told me about have been so interesting. Once I get them in, I can't decide where to start. He continued. I know that if I start reading while I'm worried, I can only read so much. I ask. It's difficult, isn't it? Although the time spent worrying is still enjoyable. Aren't you busy captain of knights, but you still try to read books? He replied, well it depends. And, thanks for always garnishing my food with healing magic. That's an impressive high-level spell. I'm glad I found this place. I was surprised that he noticed that. I opened my mouth and spoke. Oh, you figured that out, huh? I just thought it might perk you up. Seal smiled, and then he spoke. I was out riding when I stumbled upon your cafe. The knights recently lost access to the grounds where our horses exercised. She thought, being a knight captain must be stressful sometimes, so maybe he's just sighing because he's stressed or tired. Like me, he relieves stress by reading, so maybe it would help to stock some new books. I think, returning my gaze to the open book in front of me. Is there anything I can do? The next day I went to the castle town's marketplace. My pendant summons things for free, but I'm always up for shopping. I found new ingredients already. Then a lady in a robe approached me. "Hello miss, import today's our last day in town. Can I interest you in rare imported fabric, miss?" I saw that woman, she didn't look like she was from this kingdom, so out of curiosity I asked, "Excuse my asking, but are you from another kingdom?" Then the lady replied, "Yes, getting here was quite the journey. I don't mind snow now and then, but cold weather all the time seems depressing. Where I'm from, the climate's warm year-round." Then I wished her luck, for safe travel, and went back home. It was warm this morning, but this is a snowy country. It's so cold. I'm glad this country is peaceful, but if it's snowing all year round I have the feeling it'll take a while before I get used to this. Thankfully the barrier keeps it warm, but the grass that should have been growing in the corner of the paddock is almost completely gone. Maybe I should have cast a spell to make it grow automatically to an extent. Horses eat quite a bit. If anyone aside from ill had started coming, I definitely wouldn't have had enough. Speaking of which, don't horses eat things aside from grass, like fruit or carrots? I have horse feed prepared, but I kind of want to try offering fresh vegetables. Checking that he hasn't come yet, I use my pendant to search for some apples and carrots and summon them. I summoned them pre-cut and in a bowl so that holding onto them like this wouldn't be strange. Carrying the bowl in my arms, one moved to the corner with the grass. Then he showed up, on his horse. "Welcome back. I thought I'd put out horse food before you arrived. Sorry to scare you." "That's all right. I'm a bit earlier than usual." Next to Il, who showed up out of nowhere, stood a pure white horse. It's much bigger than any of the horses at the farms in my old world, so I suppose this is what a war horse looks like. It feels even bigger from up close, I notice as I walk towards it. "You're so big. It's nice to meet you," I say, looking up at it from below. The horse seemed to take interest as well, moving its head down so I could get a better look at its face. "Wow, you're so pretty." It's beautiful, even compared to other horses. Its intrigued eyes widen, and it brings its head further down towards me. Hey. Il's seemingly panicked voice echoes in the paddock, but his horse pays him no mind as it ducks its head towards me, or rather, the bowl I'm holding. Its nose pokes at the bowl of vegetables. "Aha, you like them, don't you? I prepared these thinking you'd be able to eat them, but," I turn to Il, asking, "Is that okay? And is it okay if I pet your horse?" He spoke. Yeah, that's fine. You can feed her." I held a piece of apple out, and she ate it from my hand. Her eyes widen and sparkle brightly. "You're so cute. I'll leave these in the food box for you and you can eat as much as you want." Animals really soothe me. "Thanks for letting me pet her." He asks. "Oh, I don't mind that at all. You're not afraid?" I was surprised by his question. "Afraid? You mean, of horses?" Yeah, I never would have seen that question coming. For some reason, Il has a serious expression on his face, which seems strange to me, but I answer his question. "I'm not afraid, I've always liked horses. I think yours is especially pretty and cute. The maids at the castle aren't afraid either, are they? Since the horses are always helping us out." Hearing my answer, he is surprised for a moment, before looking downwards. He was thinking about the savior girl who fell from the horse because she startled the horse and that's why she fell from the horse. But she blamed the horse for that and demanded that the horse should be put down. She demanded that horse should be dead. Then he spoke. "They wouldn't." "I see. It seems I worried needlessly." She replied, "By the way, that the new book you wanted was in." "Wow, that's a piece of good news, let's go." He was about to enter inside the cafe but then she stopped him. "Wait, would you like to read over there?" Then he followed her. They went to veranda. In the middle of the veranda there was a big beautiful tree, with a seating table, and chairs. I put out some temporary open-air seating. You might not see that too often in Othel, since it's always snowing. Reading out here could be a nice change. These are pretty. They're imported cherry trees. Then he turned around and complimented her. "You really are wonderful." Both stared at each other for a while, and she blushed. Then she suddenly broke the silence. "Oh wait, I forgot, let me get the book you wanna and menu too Till then make yourself home. While blushing, she ran towards the cafe. She went inside and closed the door, and her heart pounded so hard, that she thought she couldn't handle this anymore. After spending time in the cafe he went back. His subordinates greet him. Seeing his happy face, Bjork thought. Lately, he gets back looking way better than when he left. Something's definitely going on. Seal asked, is there anything to report? What's with that look? Bjork nodded nothing. He thought, there is something fishy going on, I have to find out. Next day, in the bustling castle hall, a group of vendors had opened shops, and various overflowing products were lined up. As of now, it was only open to the castle's inhabitants, and the royal family and knights were looking around pleasantly. Like this, not only were the royal family and knights able to shop without worrying about their status, but it was a nice sight, fitting for this peaceful country. With the young savior girl nowhere to be seen, it felt like returning to the peaceful times of before, but it was a little lonely with the second prince missing from the royal family's cheerful conversation. Before, he would have happily gifted the queen and princess presents here. It's strange that the prince, who used to always think about his family, is now doing anything and everything for that savior girl, but we can't do anything about it. Bjork spoke. Ah, today sure is peaceful. The savior's got her own time with the prince reserved for shopping after, right? I smiled and replied, yeah, the king was considerate, saying that way everyone else can take their time looking around. Bjork continued, the fact that the savior has her own time reserved in the first place makes me angry, but shopping at the same time as she would be even more irritating, so we have to be grateful for the king's sympathy. Even if it is a reserved time, it's only about an hour. After that, it opens to the castle town, so they have to be gone by then. Seal continued, I see. Well, an hour should be enough for that savior. She seems to get bored easily, so she'll probably be satisfied with a short time. In any case, Bjork looked around excitedly before looking at the princess and smiling, I'm gonna buy her something. It's been a while since I've had the opportunity to. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be happy. I replied to him. Bjork continued, it'd be nice if you had someone to give gifts to too. It's pretty fun to pick things out for someone. One of the drawbacks of being our age is that almost everyone already has a partner, but if you find a single woman, it'd probably work to approach her, Bjork told me with a teasing smirk. I'd like to tell you that line, a little while ago, I replied, and he was silent. Laughing off Bjork, who has his head hanging dejectedly, I tap him on the back lightly and urge him to go towards the princess. Watching Bjork make his way to the princess, I look around again. The busy shops are likely the ones with food from other countries. The members of the knights eat like horses. The king and queen are cheerfully looking at decorations, and in front of a different decoration shop are Bjork and the princess. Normally, I would go straight to the old bookshop or go with my subordinates to look at the food. The princess was smiling brightly, looking at a necklace Bjork must have given her. Getting a gift really does make you happy. I remember the book cover Sukina gave me and a smile appears on my face. It has magic to prevent the book from being soiled, but thanks to the subdued design, it's made my reading time that much more enjoyable. She casually gave me something with an advanced spell that she cast easily, but if I were to buy something like this at the market, it would be a very high-class item. Come to think of it, the recovery magic she puts on my food and drinks for me is advanced magic too, and she doesn't take any money for the horse feed she gives my horse either. A gift, huh? I remember Sukina's face from when she saw me off yesterday. I'm there almost every day, but I want to spend even more time at that cafe. If it's as a thank you for everything, maybe she'd take it. I look at the shops around me and think, I wonder if she'd be happy to receive something from me, or if it'd make her smile. She probably wouldn't take money, but it should be fine if I buy something for her. This is the first time I've thought about wanting to give a gift to anyone, let alone a woman my own age. Immediately hit a wall. I have no idea what to buy. Even just whispering it to myself is pathetic. I narrow the items in the shop down to the ones with simple designs and compare them. She doesn't seem like she likes anything too flashy, and I should probably avoid anything like rings or bracelets that would get in the way of cooking. She's often carrying books too, so a corsage or a brooch would probably get in the way. A necklace, or maybe earrings. My wandering gaze eventually lands on a hair tie with a white flower attached to it sitting in the corner. The flower was somewhat big, but the design was subdued. Sukina always ties her hair to the side or behind, but it's always with a normal hair tie, without any decoration. I decide to buy it, and call over to the shop owner. "Excuse me, could I get this wrapped?" "Yes." Around to take out the item, the store owner was extremely surprised at me calling out to her. Realizing that she was staring at me strangely, she frantically smiled at me again and began to wrap up the hair tie. I don't know why, but I'm glad the wrapping design also looks like something Sukina will like. I hand her the money and take the wrapped gift and smile. It certainly is fun to pick out a gift for someone. I think she'll like it, and once I finish shopping, I have the afternoon off. I decided to go to her cafe a little early today. Thinking it strange that my lively surroundings had gone quiet, I turned to leave. Everyone was surprised that the captain of knights, who wasn't interested in anything except books, was now purchasing the gift for mystery women. The queen spoke. "Did you see that? Captain Seal just bought a woman's hair tie." The king nodded and spoke. "Indeed. I'm speechless. So, of all people." Seal's friend Bjork seems very intrigued by Seal's matter. After that, Seal went to book, where Sukina was waiting for him. "Welcome back. You are early today." "I am off duty," he replied. "Oh, I see." She turned her head and spoke. "Oh, your colleague joined you. He's a knight as well, right?" Seal was puzzled. He turned back and saw that Bjork was there. He shouts, "Bjork, what the heck you are doing here?" From behind, she asks to get Bjork's cloak. "I came to figure out why you've been so keyed up lately." As for the king's orders, I suspected something like this. Even a straight arrow like you has his indulgences. Pleased to meet you. Il and I have been friends for ages. He smirked. Tuskina introduced herself. The owner of this cafe. "Nice to meet you," he muttered. "Whoa, you've got tons of bookshelves." She replied, "I will give you a tour." He saw tons of books and spoke. "So what's a book cafe?" She continued. "It's a spot where you eat, drink, and read to your heart's content. You needn't worry about damaging the books. I used magic to protect them all." Hearing this, he can't believe. He muttered, "What? They're all magically protected?" "Amazing." She spoke. "I'll leave your book here, Il." "All right," he replied. "Yeah, sure, thanks." He hides his gift and thinks of giving it later. Both of them sat down and she started making coffee for them. Bjork asked, "How long have you run this cafe?" About 3 months, I think," I replied. Bjork continued. "Ah, so, it's still pretty new." Il was always a bookworm, even when we were kids. He'd crack open a book whenever he had spare time after sword fighting practice. In our village, books were rare. He reread the same ones till they fell apart. She asked, "You grew up in the same village?" He continued, "Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere." Seal was leaving the counter, then she spoke. "Your tea's almost ready, Il." He replied, "Thanks, but I'm grabbing the sequel to this. I'll be right back." Bjork then spoke. "Hey, he's been looking a lot better lately. I think that's because of you." "Thanks to you." Hearing this, I blushed. After taking a sip of tea, Bjork was surprised. He spoke. "Whoa, you cast healing magic on this and it still tastes like tea. Incredible." After sipping his tea, Bjork asked, "So Tuskina, what's your type of guy, I mean?" Hearing this, Seal gets angry. He dragged Bjork and throw him out of the cafe. Bjork spoke. "What the hell was that for, Il?" But Seal shouts in anger. "If you're not here to read, go home, then." But then Bjork suddenly said, "Yes, sir." He came inside and closed the door. He said, "Sorry for the disruption." But she wasn't sure why he did that, so said, "No, it was nice to meet him. Please, let him know he's welcome back anytime." Then Seal said, "Before he barged in, I meant to give you this." He took the gift he prepared. It's a thank you gift, for For always taking care of me. She saw the gift and she was surprised. She said it's so cute. He asked to try it on. So she tried it. She looks absolutely cute. And the design is so beautiful. And it's sturdy enough to wear often. I'll take good care of it. Both of them were happy. From the window Bjork was stalking them, so Seal said, I'll come back when Bjork's not stalking me. And she nodded. He went back to Main Road with Bjork. Meanwhile cursing on him while they were riding horses. Meanwhile I was so touched by his gift. Then I went inside. And started reading books. And then someone came to cafe. A sound rang in my head to notify me of a customer, and a smile came onto my face reflexively. Welcome. I had assumed it must be ill, but this time the person who entered was a man I'd never seen before. He looks around the same age as me, but he has the smile of a mischievous child on his face. He has a very different look from ill, but with his bright and amusing features, he looks like the popular type. Hey, looks like everything's going smoothly. Having someone I've never met before speak to me as if we were close friends leaves me bewildered. He may look different, but I remember this atmosphere. God, I asked softly, and the man looked at me, his smile growing wider. And the man nodded. He walked over to me with that same smile and took a seat at the counter. Sorry for the sudden visit. Don't worry, it's not like you called me. I just decided to come here, so this won't be included in the 3 wishes I gave you. I was relieved to hear something along the lines of what I was expecting. I was afraid I might have just called a normal person, God, otherwise. You're really, God? I asked. Yeah, I decided to change my form to match the humans here. Are you just checking up on me like you had said you would before? Well, that too. Oh, and you don't need to be so formal with me. Oh, okay. Since he didn't seem to mind at all, I decided to talk casually, and look at his face. He takes a sip of his coffee again before opening his mouth. The reason I'm here today is because it looks like we're going to have a bit of a problem soon. It's related to the other savior in this country, so that's why I came to you. Other savior? Wait, there's another savior in this country. Huh, did you not know? Not at all. At my response, God's expression changed to an indescribable, almost sorrowful expression. You know, you should really go outside, even just a little. Well, certainly in your situation I can understand hiding away, but still. I averted my gaze, unable to say anything when I knew he was right, and God continued with a wry smile. In this country, there's another savior besides you. I sent her here shortly before I sent you, but she's living in the castle. When someone in this country mentions a savior, they're usually talking about her. I see. Is something wrong with her? The castle, that's where Seal live, isn't it? I wondered, as God continued talking with a grave expression. I said it looks like there'll be a problem soon, right? The savior living in the castle is a young girl, announcing that she's a savior and refusing to learn low-level magic, let alone great magic, spending all her time playing around in the castle. Huh, but isn't she there as a savior? God replied. Yeah, that's kind of amazing. She's young, or perhaps, childish, is a better word for her. You don't want anyone to find out that you're a savior, so you're hiding away deep in this forest. It's almost certain that if the humans here knew, they'd throw a big festival to celebrate you and cause a big commotion. Certainly, you have no option but to hide that if you want to live normally. But like I said earlier, the other girl is loudly proclaiming that she's a savior, and spending her days playing around in the royal castle. Wow, I'm the same in that I'm not cooperating as a savior, but I certainly don't dare to refuse to cooperate while announcing that I'm a savior. So, is something going on with her? Yeah, today I'm here with a warning, or information, something like that. I think whichever one of those it is will change the meaning, I say. God continued, whichever you'd like to take it as depends on you. First, I told you that she hasn't learned a single spell. Her wish when she came here was to be pretty, and she doesn't have an ounce of fight in her. I've granted a lot of wishes, but I still don't understand how humans think. Separate from the fact that she hasn't learned any magic and is only being protected there, she's been doing whatever she wants in the castle. Not only has the second prince been fawning over her, but a savior who has powerful magical abilities but hasn't learned any spells is too much for the castle, and it's not like they can hand her over to another country, God continues. I wonder if the reason Il has been so tired is because of that savior. I feel a chill go down my spine. God continued. She was an only child born to a rich couple who had been wanting a child, so in her old world, she was doted on and generally listened to her parents. That's why she hates having to put up with anything she doesn't like. I opened my mouth and spoke. If she were rich, it seems more likely that she'd put more effort into being educated. God's expressions were not positive as he spoke. Well, that depends on the person. I mentioned it before, but as long as a savior is in this world, balance will be maintained. I don't know about those around her, but I generally don't care how saviors spend their time as long as this world's balance is maintained. But she's being far too selfish. I've sent plenty of saviors to this world before, but this is the first time I've seen a savior so unwilling to learn magic. First, there's the fact that the second prince is head over heels for her, which could be either that he's just taken with her herself, or that he's drunk on some very strong magic. There's never been any case of someone being drunk on magic for a savior before, but that prince is very susceptible. It could be that the appearance she wished for is affecting him similar to charm magic. It's most likely because that prince is approving of her that she's being tolerated, but he looks at me, and I falter slightly as I return his gaze. You've learned quite a bit of magic, haven't you? Huh, well, it's fun to learn something that didn't exist in my world. That and it's convenient. All the other saviors until now have been like that too. Whether they want to save the world, learn great magic, or simply because they're interested, no matter the reason, everyone's learned at least one spell. Do you know that magic is influenced by the user's mind? Yes, I know that. Frankly speaking, what I'm concerned about is this savior losing control of her magic. Losing control of her magic. I don't like the sound of that. God's serious air and expression only encourage that feeling of dread. Normally, by using smaller spells like you have, you gain more control over even the savior's most powerful magic. Even without that, a reasonable person would try to restrain their magic. But the savior at the castle doesn't have the reason to control herself. If she hates something, she won't do it no matter what the situation is. A mind like that and powerful magic she can't control. If something happens and she loses control of herself, she'll lose control of her magic as well. And when powerful magic goes out of control, there's only one outcome. God stared straight at me, gaze unwavering, and I somehow understood what he wanted to say. His expression didn't budge even as my face froze. It's happened once before, though it wasn't over something as trivial as this. But the scale of the damage was the same. If a savior's magic goes out of control, it'll cause a catastrophe capable of blowing away an entire country. Unable to think of a response, God and I stared at each other. The music that always builds the peaceful atmosphere of the cafe played in a space that had gone cold. I asked, "Are you going to leave that dangerous girl here as a savior?" God spoke, "If I could return anyone to their old world at will, I would have sent you back when you were being so difficult. In any case, right now this is all hypothetical. The only times I could retrieve a human I had sent to this world would be if that human has died or if they have caused grave harm to this world. If nothing happens, I can't do anything. I don't know how retrieving works, but hasn't she caused quite enough damage to the people at the castle? So you're telling me to stop her?" "No, I'm not saying that. A disaster is only a possibility, but even if it happens, then whatever you decide to do is your choice. This isn't something I can force you to do." I was silent. "I told you, this can be a warning or information," Gid said. I wanted to ask if two saviors use their magic against each other, who would win? "Who?" he muttered. Then he spoke. "Saviors have the most magic in this world, right? If two people with the same amount of magic, say, if that other savior uses offensive great magic, If I try to defend my Great Barrier magic, who would win? There are a lot of factors involved, so I can't say for certain, but I think in the end both types of magic will disappear simultaneously. The offensive magic will lose its effect, and the barrier will also disappear. Then I open my mouth. In that case, then as the person who's putting up a barrier, I have the advantage, right? The barrier will disappear, but the offensive magic I wanted to defend against will disappear too. Yeah, and what's more, if you're up against her, then from the moment you learn to control your magic, you've been at an advantage. Learning magic has both increased your total magic and improved your ability to control it, so the barrier might stay up instead of disappearing. At that point, as long as it doesn't take another hit from a savior, the barrier will probably hold for some decades. I see. Like I said, whatever you decide is your choice. You should live as you like. If it goes too far, I might warn another savior like I have with you. Well, it shouldn't be a problem for you. It felt a little early, but not so much that it was a surprise for Il to arrive. Entering the cafe like usual, Il's eyes widened at the sight of a customer beside himself. Oh right, there haven't ever been customers besides himself before. God waves, saying, "See you," as he walks towards Il, stopping once beside him before slipping past. I feel like I was just given some pretty dangerous information. I hope that doesn't turn into something troublesome. Il lets out a sigh, still standing in the doorway and watching God leave, and I call out to him. "Welcome, it's cold out, you should come inside." Ooh, yeah, what a surprise, huh? No one besides you has come to this cafe until now. Although I don't know if he really counts as a visitor. He asks, "Was he, someone you know?" I reply, "Well, he helped me out before." Normally the conversation would end there, but the way Il was looking at me made it seem like he was waiting for me to continue. Wondering how to explain, I remember the backstory I had decided on before coming here. It's a little difficult to talk about, but if I include things about my actual past, he probably won't question it. I'm originally from a village that burned down during the war. My parents passed away early on, and I was raised by my grandparents, but they're both gone too. They passed away when I had already begun working, and they left me quite a bit, so I didn't have any trouble living on my own, but ultimately during the war, the village burned down and I was the only one who survived. The man who just left was the one who helped me set up this cafe after that. By the way, most of that was true. The fact that my parents passed away when I was young, and that I was raised by my grandparents until I was of age, and that they left me an inheritance so I didn't have much trouble, that was the past from my old world. God is the one who gave me this cafe, so I didn't say anything false there. I see, he hangs his head from having unintentionally touched upon a difficult subject, a bit flustered. Honestly, my grandparents passed away after I had become independent, and because of their age, they passed away peacefully, so it wasn't much of a shock. He spoke, "I understand. My apologies for bringing up such sad memories." The atmosphere felt a little tense after explaining, "It's nothing to worry about, my life now is very full." He grabbed my hand and spoke, "Sukina." I'm trying to ignore his hand touching mine as I hand him the menu, desperately trying to keep a calm smile on my face, when beep, beep. A loud sound I've never heard before drowns out the gentle music in the cafe. It reminds me of the piercing alarm on a smartphone during a disaster, putting me on edge. Il's expression, which had been a calm smile, instantly hardened, and a dangerous aura appeared in his previously relaxed eyes. He pulled a small machine-like thing from his pocket. It seemed to be the source of the sound, and as Il put a little bit of magic into it, it quieted down, but his expression didn't change. He then spoke, "Excuse me. I must be going." I asked, "What happened?" He continued, "The knights are needed to suppress a monster near Othel's border. It's urgent." Wait a minute, I almost forgot he's the knights' captain. He fights on the front lines to keep this kingdom safe. Just a second. He stops, turning to look at me, and I grab a glass bead from the box I had just placed on the shelf. "I'm sorry I don't have anything more," I say as I imbue the glass bead with magic, placing a barrier spell inside it. I didn't think that spell would come in handy so soon. I cast a barrier charm on this marble to protect you. Please, take it. He looked at me surprised, then thanked me. Take care while patrolling. He then hugged me and I was flustered. But somehow I didn't stop him. Then he took his horse and went for patrolling. I was so flustered. This is why I can't handle hot guys. But he'll be all right. He'll be back before I know it. Time to bring in the books on Ill's reading list. I really thought that, in a few days, Ill would be back at the cafe as always. I squeeze the barrier charm that's in my breast pocket and hurry back to the castle. Along the way, I meet up with Bjork, also on his horse, and he tells me where the tent for the subjugation is, and I change directions to head that way. It looks like the monster that was spotted was related to that snowslide, I say. Yeah, and this time the larger monsters are leading some smaller ones. Looks like we can't take care of this the easy way by just scouting out the area and setting up an ambush, he replies. Did the snowslide happen because of the smaller monsters stomping around when the scouts were there? Most likely. We exchange information. All of the weapons were ready, and there had been no issues with the preparation itself. Giving orders to each of them, I motivate myself in preparation for the coming time. I avoid looking at the tent that the other members are also pointedly avoiding looking at. One night I told them that the savior girl had also come with the prince. Hearing this, both of them were shocked. From the tent comes a spoiled voice saying, "I'm scared," and Bjork's and my faces twitch. Why is she here? Bjork mutters under his breath, and the other knights around us nod deeply in agreement. Despite the fact that this is an emergency mission, the savior girl is here. This is completely different from the routine subjugations. They were lectured, but neither the prince nor the savior girl drew back. Even the crown prince tried to stop his younger brother from doing this shit. But he listened to that savior girl. The savior who said, "I want to see the prince in action." And the prince who smiled back at her, charmed by her words. They were told to at least stay in the tent, but how far we'll be able to protect them is unknown. Everyone readied their weapons, distancing themselves from the tent and running to their post, waiting as they watched where the monsters were expected to appear. I draw the sword at my side and let out a breath. It's a powerful monster, but this isn't the first time we've fought a monster in this class. We won't lose, I thought, gripping my sword as I opened my mouth. Just like we planned, go. The advance party fired their magic, and we were immediately confronted with the first monsters flying at us. The battle has begun. Bjork shouted beside me, kicking off the ground with me. The pack of monsters surge onto us, and then it's a melee. I steadily cut down the monster in front of me, advancing to avoid the next incoming attack. The strategy for this kind of subjugation is always about the same. The knights scatter the monsters around us, and either Bjork or I go for the leader. That's how we've always done it, so we were planning to use that same strategy this time too. That is until the second prince jumped into the front lines. I only realized it was too late. First was the prince, flung aside by the huge forefeet of the giant monster, followed by the savior, trembling so much she couldn't even move. No one needed to ask why the two that were supposed to be in the furthest tent were here now. The girl spoke, "Whoa, it's like a movie. That wolf's horrifying." The prince then replied, "Well, of course, but..." She then hugged him and spoke, "Oh, but if it attacked me, you'd save me, right?" He continued, "Don't get close to it, my love." The knight's hateful gazes were suddenly directed towards the young savior girl. Several of the knights who had first leapt in were thrown aside and knocked unconscious. Where we had been pushing them back, suddenly we were being pushed back ourselves. "Ill, get the leader first. If the bigger ones are taken care of, they'll break apart." "I know. Draw the others away." "Got it." Bjork, who can use a little recovery magic, began using it little by little on the more severely injured knights, while simultaneously drawing the monsters away from the prince. I told Prince to take my horse and go away. Just when the other knights were drawing away the smaller monster's attention and I was guiding the leader towards myself, the trembling savior let out a scream and ran away. After I had just gotten the leader's attention, it turned towards the savior's scream. In the blink of an eye, the monster closed the distance between itself and the savior. And as it brandished its claws, the prince jumped in, and there was a spray of blood. The falling prince, and the retreating girl, dragging her body away in an attempt to escape, as if the prince's blood itself would burn her. The dazed older prince lets out a small why. Everything happens in slow motion as the monster moves to make what would likely be the killing blow on the prince. The next thing I knew, I was holding the prince in my arms. My back, face, and arms and legs felt hot, and there was a disgusting feeling of something flowing out of my stomach. The prince looked at me in surprise, and it almost looked like his eyes had returned to how they were before the savior arrived, and I couldn't stop myself from speaking. Good grief, you're more trouble now than when you were young. Why? As I try to respond to the prince, something rise up in the back of my throat, and I cough, the taste of blood spreading through my mouth. Ill, Bjork yelled out, louder than I've ever heard him yell before, and from the breeze behind me I sense the leader's attack coming. I shove the prince out of my arms and away from the attack, and support my unstable body with my sword. That was probably the last of my strength. My body won't move, I can hear the sound of blood dripping onto the ground, and my vision is flickering and fading. The ground is swaying, and I feel sick. Is it over? Is this the end for me? Even though I've finally realized. As my vision fades, the smile I've seen almost every day comes to mind. After she told me she'd be waiting, and to be careful. My chest feels terribly hot, as I think, I can't die yet, I can't let myself die. Sukina. As soon as the words fell from my mouth, everything went black. Recently, I've gotten into the habit of opening the door and checking outside several times a day. Even a week after Il left for the subjugation, he still hadn't come back to the cafe. I can't concentrate at all on the reading I love so much, and while I still enjoy my alone time, it feels like something's missing when Il isn't here. This is the first time I've felt like this. Shaking away the worst-case scenario that appears in my head, I keep telling myself it'll be okay, despite having no evidence. He has the barrier charm so he'll be okay, although since I'm the one who made it, it might not have activated if something happened. Il's strong so he'll be okay, but the fact that an emergency subjugation was called means the monster must be strong too. For every it'll be okay, unease follows. I've been seeing him almost every day since I met him, so I never realized going this long without seeing his face would leave me so lonely. Il always comes in the afternoon, he wouldn't come this early. Despite knowing that, I've been anxiously waiting to hear that sound, and quickly turn to the entrance. My vision blurs at the sight of a familiar figure stepping into the cafe, ringing the door like usual. Sorry I couldn't come for a while. Just like the first time I met him, just like always, Il steps into the cafe as he removes his cloak that protects him against the snow, and as I look at his face, as the surprise hits me, my body relaxes and I sink to the ground. Under his cloak, his body is covered in bandages. A large gauze pad covers part of his face, and his neck and hands, not covered by his clothes, are wrapped in bandages. Seeming concerned by me sinking to the floor, he moves towards me, but I can see that he's limping a little. Are you okay? I should be asking you that. Those injuries look bad, but I'm glad you're alright. Yeah, sorry I couldn't contact you. I let out a breath and stand, guiding Il to a stool at the counter and pulling it out for him. He thanks me, and sits down with undeniably stiff movements. Are your injuries okay? Yeah, I've recovered enough that I can move. I wanted to come here as soon as I could, so I ended up rushing the doctor so I could get permission to leave. He says that with a bitter smile, looking a little pained. I'm incredibly glad and relieved to know that you're okay, but are you really sure you should be moving around? Yeah, some places hurt a bit, but moving isn't a problem. I was able to ride my horse here, in any case. When I look out the window into the horse paddock, I see Il's horse happily sticking her face into the food box I just refilled with a new type of feed. I'm relieved she's okay too. I saw you put fresh food in the paddock. Thanks. I'm glad you liked it. I'm relieved you two are alright. I move behind the counter in front of Il, and look at him again. It looks like he's covered in bandages from head to toe. It looks like it's hard for him to move, he's probably covered in injuries under his clothes too. That looks painful. Are you able to eat normally? I'm mostly fine. The doctor just said to avoid anything hard. Could I ask for bread and stew? Of course, I'll have it out shortly. While the stew is boiling, I summon some soft bread. I also decide to boil the stew a little longer than usual. I wonder if he forced himself to come here. The thought makes me happy, but also worries me, and I don't know how to feel. I got the new books in, that you said you wanted to read. But it looks difficult to read a book with your hands like that, right? His hands were wrapped in bandages, all the way to his fingertips. It looked like he could move them, but flipping pages would be hard. I spoke. It hasn't been all that inconvenient for most things, but reading a book is hard. If I get distracted, my hands relax and the book closes. He opened his mouth and spoke. Yeah, that's the most annoying thing when reading. I even received some amount of restoration magic. But apparently with injuries this severe, restoration magic can only be used on one area once per day. And this time there were quite a few injured knights aside from me, and several other members with injuries worse than mine. Because the castle is limited on people who can use restoration magic, I had them begin prioritizing the other members yesterday, since I've recovered enough. It was best to only rely on restoration magic until yesterday, so from here on it's just natural recovery. When I woke, the royal family was in tears. Though Bjork still gave me an earful. Was it that difficult of a subjugation? I asked. He continued. Well, the monster itself was one we've fought before. This time, there were other factors that led to us being nearly overrun. Oh, speaking of which, I meant to thank you earlier. The barrier charm you gave me, it broke apart and disappeared, but it's because of that I'm still alive right now. Thank you. Il gave a wry smile as he said that, but I felt as if I had been suddenly chilled to the core. When I think of the night's near destruction, where even the captain, the person in front of me, was injured this badly, I wonder if this is normal too. A chill runs down my spine, and I suddenly want to cry. He really is close to death. I gently reach out and take his left hand that's wrapped in bandages. Tsukina, he called me. I spoke to him. I know this isn't something I should be saying to the knight captain, but don't be so reckless. It wasn't just 2 or 3 days, but you were gone for 10 whole days, and I was worried the whole time. As I said that, I cast restoration magic on his left hand. I forced my voice to work in an attempt to hide my hand heating up in his. Of course I was. You've come here almost every day until now. I couldn't relax without you here, and every day I opened the door and looked outside for you. For several days, his usual chair stayed empty. I at least wanted to know if he was alive, but I didn't have a way to get any clear information. I smile wryly as I said that, and Il's gaze doesn't leave me. His expression is so serious, I can't look away. Is something wrong? Tsukina, As Il begins, I hear the stew boiling over, its contents sizzling on the stove. Oh no, I frantically run over to it and turn the heat down. My hand had slipped out of his easily, as if Il was surprised too. Sorry, what were you saying? No, it's nothing. It's fine. Thank you for the magic, now I can read without worrying. Il smiled as he said that, but it was clear he was hiding what he was about to say. Why didn't I turn the heat down before? I should have at least left the lid off. As I'm regretting that, I move my gaze to the bandages wrapped around the rest of him. Really would have been nice if you were the savior, Il says with a bitter expression, and for a moment I'm at a loss for words. That's the first time he's ever used the word, savior. His tired expression, and his injuries this time. No way, I think in the back of my mind, feeling that my previous suspicions were correct. I ask, is this about the savior at the castle? He replied, have you heard? I continued, well, only a few rumors. I see if only she hadn't been at this subjugation. Il trails off, staying silent, his expression filled with disgust. So Il's injuries this time really are related to the savior at the castle. At the very least, it's clear that Il don't think well of her. I'm sorry, I apologize. Internally, after all, I'm the same as her deep down, because no matter the reason, I'm refusing to be the savior this world's people want. Then he continued and spoke, is it all right if I stay until you close today? I don't mind at all, but are you able to Because of my injuries, I'm exempt, or rather, I was specifically told not to come back to do any work for the nights until I've recovered. I normally borrow one of the rooms at the castle, but to be honest, the atmosphere there is terrible right now. I want to stay away from the castle as much as I can. It's that bad, I muttered. The number of times he's sighed is well into the double digits as he sighs again, and I look at him, thinking. My gaze drifts towards the private room that's only been used by me so far. Like when I don't feel like going upstairs to my personal living space, or when I can't stop reading a book, I'll stay in that room for the night. There's a bed inside, and the room is furnished like an inn, with an attached bath too. What should I do? I think, my head becoming more and more disoriented. Then I opened my mouth and spoke. If going back is depressing, then do you want to stay here for a little while? He looks up at me in surprise, and I point to the private room. Because is a man with common sense, there's a high likelihood that he'll decline the offer. I try not to let the nervousness show on my face as I look at who's at a loss for words as he tries to find a response. If that's okay with you, I wouldn't have expected it. Oh, yeah, of course, I wouldn't offer just to say no. I see. Then I'd like to, starting tomorrow. I'll go back tonight to pack some things before I come, and to let those at the castle know beforehand. I was trying to sound calm, but my voice betrayed me a little. It feels like the atmosphere has gotten a little strange, but neither of us can take our words back at this point. Got it, then tomorrow. That room has a bed, desk, and bath. Okay, thanks. Now it was settled that would stay here starting tomorrow. I'm happy, but there are feelings I don't know what to do with swirling around inside me as well. Outside, mounts his horse a little unsteadily before leaving the cafe behind, and I close up for the night. I shut the door and curtains, letting out a big sigh. My face feels hot, and I press one hand to it, finally being forced to face my feelings in the silent cafe. I can't do anything about it now. I have mixed feelings about tomorrow, like I'm excited but also regretting offering in the first place. He arrived at the palace. Nervous, I carefully but quickly head towards my room. I started packing my stuff. Then the door opens and a familiar voice comes. Hey, you're back. Looks like you're all better. Oh, it's you, Bjork. What are you grinning about? It's weird. Anyways, clear that part of the desk for me so I can put this down. Bjork continued, Hey, how are you feeling? Much better. Are you all right? You've been working all hours. Bjork continued, Well, only a few knights are in fighting form right now. I replied, But we'll be fine. Since the battle, the savior's been on her best behavior. Bjork saw that packing and spoke, Are you going to visit? Yes, I replied. Then suddenly the door opens and the younger prince comes in. The prince looked tensed. He suddenly bowed his head and started apologizing. See the royalty bowing like this, both of them was startled. I must sincerely apologize. The knights have safeguarded me for years, and I nearly lost you all. I got carried away pampering her. I knew her selfishness was creating problems for you, but I let it go on. My apology alone may not earn your forgiveness. But will you give me one more chance? The prince sincerely pleads. I'll persuade the savior to study magic before next month's Aurora festival. If I don't, you have my father's permission to punish me. Hearing young prince's words, both the knights were shocked. Fear and Bjork spoke. I know all too well that love makes us do foolish things. Also spoke. All right. If that's your plan of action, I don't object. The young prince thanked them and left the room. Bjork spoke. He's acting like his old self. I'm gobsmacked. Then all sat down and spoke. The question is, will the savior do as he asks? Maybe not, but we may as well give him a chance. Then Bjork smirked and spoke. Anyway, are you packing to visit that girl? Never figured you were the romantic type. Be careful. Like I told the prince, sometimes love sours. Well, try and take it easy, lover boy. If something happens, I'll get a hold of you. Reply, yes, I will come to you. When Bjork left the room, I smiled and was excited about next day. It's true, this does feel like trouble. With a smiling face I welcomed him. Welcome back. I have been looking forward to this. Thanks for inviting me. When she asked if I wanted to stay here, it was so perfect I thought I might be dreaming. Eventually our temporary life together ended, but inside my chest feels warm, and I feel satisfied. My body feels light, and there's not an ounce of pain remaining. Even the remaining scars from when the magician at the castle healed me were completely gone, almost as if the wounds had never existed in the first place. Sukina, who is able to completely heal wounds that even the most capable magicians in the country couldn't do anything about. The amount that recovery magic heals someone is determined by the amount of magic the magician has. Because we're living together now, it's obvious, but we can keep talking about our interpretations and thoughts until late into the night. Living together is far more pleasant than I anticipated. I feel something brush from the nape of my neck to my cheek, and I unconsciously let out a small shriek. I frantically turn around to meet eyes with Il, the end of my ponytail resting in his hand. Even if my hair weren't tied up, it's definitely not that long. For my hair to be in his hand means he must be incredibly close. At such close proximity, I sensed a strange desire in his eyes, and even I knew my face was red. Did I scare you? Well, you surprised me. Did you need something? And with the end of my hair in his hand, his expression stayed with a smile. Sorry, I was just thinking about how happy it makes me to see you wearing something I gave you. It really suits you. Il's gaze is focused on the hair tie currently tying my hair, and I realize that lately, perhaps because I've been wearing it constantly since he gave it to me, it almost feels like something's missing without it. Il clears his throat, trying to hide his embarrassment. Sukina, since I've mostly recovered, if you need to go shopping, I'll come with you. Oh, yeah, right. I might take you up on that. Since he came, I haven't gone shopping. I was just thinking I'd need to go shopping, since he might find it suspicious if I suddenly have more food. Because I can't let him know that I've never really gone to the town, I casually ask him to show me around, saying, I always go shopping and leave right away, so I don't really know where everything is. I haven't seen anything except where I ran into you that time. Would you be able to show me around? Oh really, I go to the marketplace often, so I can do that. Do you want to go now? Yeah, just wait a minute, I'll go get the teleportation magic intermediary. We could go on my horse too. Look at the paddock, I say, pointing out the window. The paddock was filled with warm sunshine, rare for a snow country. In it, Il's horse was sunbathing. Her eyes were pleasantly closed, and she looked very comfortable. She looks so comfortable I don't want to disturb her. Yeah, we'll take her next time. I go upstairs to get the intermediary, and take off my apron and change my clothes since I'm already there. We step onto it together, and after putting some magic into it, my vision sways for a moment before we're transported into the shadow of a building near the entrance. Il spoke. That's the first time I've ever used teleportation magic, Il comments. It doesn't make you as dizzy as I thought it would. I think if you're traveling far, you'll get more dizzy, but it's only for a moment coming to the town. As we step off of the magic circle, Il gently take my hand, and I unconsciously stiffen. When I look at him, he smiles and says it's because the marketplace is crowded, so this way we won't get separated. I squeeze his hand back and smile at him. He must like me. I stopped caring about my own age or the eyes of those around me. Perhaps because of the warm sunlight, it seems to be roaring with business. Whoa, it's amazing. This marketplace is only open every few days. Various shops gather here and open, so sometimes there are good deals here. I wonder if it's like a flea market. Though at each of the shops, as we approach, the clerks all look at Il's face and mine, and then our intertwined hands and stiffen. I wonder what that's all about. It seems like him walking around with a woman is the reason we're attracting attention, but does that mean he's not usually around women? Not that that doesn't make me a little happy. I wonder if it looks like we're on a date, I think, smiling to myself at the thought of being seen like that. Since meeting him, even I know I've been smiling more, and I bite back my happiness. We approach the shop selling ingredients, and I think for a moment. I've already gotten used to the clerk's stiffening. We've already eaten lunch today while walking around, So all that's left is dinner and ingredients for tomorrow on. Because I'm always cooking for him, Il says he'll pay, which makes me feel a little guilty. I'm sorry, the food I make you doesn't cost me anything. Il, what do you want to eat for dinner? Fish would be good. I'm grateful that he's surprisingly assertive with what he wants to eat. I never know what to do with anything is fine, in this situation. I buy enough for tomorrow and on, along with the fish Il says he wants for dinner. Hey, Il, in the marketplace there were a lot of posters up that said, Aurora Festival, on them, right? Yeah, since it's coming up. Is it a big festival? Have you never been before? It happens every year, it's the biggest festival in this country. Oh, yeah, I'm usually shut in here. I've never gone before. That was too close, I thought, but Il doesn't say anything about it and keeps talking. Once a year, a huge aurora appears in the sky. On that day, the festival happens, and if you want to, would you like to go together? I have the day of the festival off this year. If you want to, that is. Are you sure? I'd love to. It was an entirely unexpected invitation. I've never gotten to see anything close to an aurora before, and on top of that I'd get to go with Il, so there's no reason to hesitate. His wounds are getting better, so sooner or later this living together will end. Il is a person with status, and we'll have to return to the days where he has duties to fulfill as the night captain. He'll probably keep coming to the cafe, but it's a little sad. From then on another 5 days pass, and I heal Il's shoulder as the last remaining injury. Over this short period of time, it feels like my restoration magic level or whatever has increased with every use. Even though I have a lot of magic, that doesn't mean I've reached a maximum, and the more I use the magic I've learned the more effective it gets, which is no different than in a game or manga. There aren't any numerical values that I know of, but after I use magic I can get a bit of a feeling for it based on how effective the spell is and how tired I am after. Il rotates his shoulder, with the luggage he used while staying here in hand. Today he goes back to the castle. Thanks for letting me stay here, and for the restoration magic. Because of you, I was able to recover quicker than I was expecting. Are you going to be busy? Yeah, the work that only I can do has been piling up while I've been away. I see, so then you won't be able to come back for some time. Unfortunately, yeah, it'll be a little lonely here then, huh? You come back too, I say, extending my hand to Il's horse next to him, and she presses her nose into my palm. Being able to watch her relax in the paddock was pleasant and fun. So, I'll finish my work before the festival. I'll come here on the day of the festival, so then we can go together at night. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Oh, right, I want you to take this. Since the one I gave you last time broke, and there's probably a way for the knights to use them too, right? I offer the box I had left by the entrance to Il. Inside the box were a large number of barrier charms that I had made while practicing. Because my magic and control had gone up, they were strengthened more than the last one. Most of them should maintain their barrier for a longer time. Il stiffens upon seeing the contents of the box. Recently I was thinking of if there might be a way to strengthen my barrier magic, and so I practiced and made all of these, but since I'm almost always shut in here I don't really use them, I explain. I appreciate it, but, these Tsukina, buying even one barrier charm of this level costs more than a house, you know. You're talking about the ones on the market, right? These were made so I could practice my magic, and they didn't cost more than the price of the glass beads they're made with. Oh, and this is for you. I offer once more, this time not made of glass, but a crystal with a barrier spell on it attached to a brooch. As thanks for the hair tie. That, and I would hate it if something happened to you and you weren't able to come to the cafe. I thought a brooch wouldn't get in your way. There are already medals or badges from the country attached to his clothes, clinking against each other. One more won't make much of a difference. Il takes the brooch from my hand and holds onto it tightly. Thank you, your barrier magic always surprises me. I've always been good at barrier spells and restoration magic is all, I casually note, thinking, I'd rather not go through another 10 days of worry again. Holding onto the box, Il swung himself into his horse's saddle, and I have to look up to see his face now. Well then, I'll see you. I'm looking forward to the festival, I say. Yeah, I'll do my best to get my work finished early so I can come back sooner. Il smiles gently before turning his back on the cafe and urging his horse into a gallop. I watch him ride off before returning into the cafe, the space with only me again. I'm excited for the festival, but the empty space felt strangely lonely. I'll ride my beloved horse back to the castle, thinking. The last several days were fulfilling. Nervous, I carefully but quickly head towards my room, holding the box so I don't drop it. I open the door, and inside my room a familiar face is waiting. Bjork was waiting for Il. Hey, you're back. Looks like you're all better. Il response, good news. Before I can complete my are your injuries all fine? Il reply, yeah, no problem. I'm fully recovered. Barak continued, ooh, that's good to hear. Was it the power of love? I never thought I'd see the respectable captain of the knights, who refused to even meet so many blind dates and dedicated most of his life to reading, holding hands with a woman and going on a date in the marketplace. A lot happened so I wasn't able to ask, but before the subjugation I wanted to ask about that woman. If you're dating someone you should at least tell me, your childhood friend. My expression hardened and I spoke, we aren't going out yet. Hearing this Bjork was a surprise. He spoke, huh? No, the high tie that woman was wearing was the one you gave her, right? It's the one you bought that other day. I gave it to her as a gift for looking out for me. I replied. He continued, no but still, that woman was only a little younger than you, right? Would a woman of that age walk around holding hands with a man she doesn't even like? I only held her hand because she didn't refuse, not because she wanted to. I replied. Bjork spoke. No, normally she'd need a good reason not to refuse if it's not someone she's dating or someone she likes. So then you're not dating, but you're serious. Is that bad? I inquired. Bjork was out of words but then, no, it's not bad, but seriously. In front of Bjork, whose face has stiffened a little, I let out a sigh. It feels like I'm sighing all the time lately. I've been thinking about telling her how I feel, but it isn't going well. Bjork response, that's the price of not having enough experience with love. But weren't you at her house these last few days? You were nearly threatening the doctor to heal you enough. Wasn't that because you wanted to go to her house? I continued, yeah, she said if I didn't want to be at the castle I could stay there. So I took her up on her offer. Bjork continued, so that's why you suddenly started looking better. Well, if you confess to her normally I think you'll get an okay. Normally even if it is a cafe, a woman living alone wouldn't let a man she doesn't like stay at her house. Do you think so too? I ask. He continued, of course. Oh, this year you have the festival day off, right? You'll probably finish your work by then too, so you should invite her and confess to her there. That's what I was thinking, so I already invited her and she said yes. I told him. Hearing this Bjork was happy. You already did then there's no problem. You should ask her out before another man takes her. Yeah, with an expression of mock disappointment, Bjork smiles wryly before continuing. Bjork continued, you'd better make sure of it. After all, the princess asked me to figure out who she was. And not just her, but the king and queen, and the other knights too, everyone wants to know who she is. So no matter what, win her heart and then tell me all about it. And then introduce me to. Huh, oh yeah, what's that box? What's in it that you're being so careful for? On the now cleared part of the desk, I gently place the box down, and open the lid, telling him to see for himself if he's curious. Looking inside, Bjork immediately stiffened. I know how he feels. Hey Il, when did you get so rich? A box of these, you'd be able to buy a castle and still have extra. And now you know why I was being so careful. I replied, yeah, something like this and you would be. What are these advanced barrier charms? I got them. I was told I could use them with the knights, so when we go on missions I'm going to hand them out to the participating members. Huh, you got these. For free. The grinning expression Bjork had from when I entered the room disappeared in an instant, and he kept looking back and forth between me and the box. Yeah, I'm planning to give some to the royal family tomorrow. You should take one too. Thanks, but I don't want to make it activate. Wait, are these barrier charms? She made them. The one that activated at the subjugation was also from her. And she's the one who healed all your injuries. Yeah, she used restoration magic on me. She's also been making drinks with restoration magic on them every day. No wonder you recovered so quickly. Just how skilled at magic is she? Those barrier charms are a level that rarely even show up in the marketplace. And even if they do, they don't come cheap. She did say that she's always been good at barrier and restoration magic. If she's that talented, why doesn't anyone know about her? Probably, well, first of all, she loves books just as much as I do. Are you serious? I thought for sure you were the only one. What's that supposed to mean? Well, anyways, she's even more of a shut-in than me. She rarely leaves the cafe, and she didn't even know about the Aurora Festival. Are you serious? It really is lucky you ran into her, you know. Looking at Bjork, holding his head in his hands, I think back to when I first met her. There's kind of a lot, but I'll find a way, I think, as Bjork, now standing by my desk, scoops up a pile of documents in his arms. Hey, I've gotta help you out, right? It's all stuff only you can do, but this much, well, I should be able to manage. But you took over my work while I was gone, too. You should be more concerned about. It's fine, I'm happy to do it. For a friend who only ever had interest in books, who's now desperately trying to court the woman he likes. I'll help you with your work, and in return, you'd better make sure to win her over at the festival. Don't forget it, he says with a smile, walking out of the room with the documents in his hands. I frantically shouted a thanks down the hall, but I wonder if he heard it. Now I really can't fail. There's still a considerable stack of papers remaining. At any rate, I need to finish this, or I won't even be able to go to the festival, let alone visit her cafe before. I faced my desk and picked up the nearest document. The stage is set, so no matter what, I have to finish this. Was my alone time always this slow? It's been a little over a week since Il returned to the castle. In the past, time would fly by in an instant so long as I was reading a book, but now it feels strangely slow. In the meantime, I've been researching a little about saviors. Before, I had only briefly looked over the basics, so this time I decided to dive further into saviors and their magic, and what happens when a savior's magic goes out of control, like God had mentioned. There are a few things I've learned. That when a savior uses great magic, the same savior's mark that is on a savior's body appears within the magic circle. That as God said, there was a savior whose magic went out of control before. And that when that savior's magic went out of control, a magic circle containing the savior's mark just like the magic circle for great magic appeared in the sky, and it blew away an entire country. After running my fingers along the image of the magic circle that appears when a person's magic goes out of control, I stand in front of the mirror and try to use great magic. I made sure to stop before it activated, but in my case as well, the magic circle that had been expanding had the savior's mark in it. Not only that, but the glowing savior's mark appears above my head as well, and all of my hair is clad in light from the glowing savior's mark, and begins waving around, like in the wind. After the savior's mark faded, I pulled my hair away from where it had appeared and looked in the mirror, to see the savior's mark clear on my skin. I sank to the ground weakly in front of the mirror. And after I had it put under my hair so it wouldn't stand out. If it's just going to appear in the sky anyways and it makes my hair glow like crazy, I should have just let it show up somewhere on my body. Like this, I know the moment I use great magic I'll be exposed as a savior. I was thinking that even if that savior does something, maybe I could quietly create a barrier to protect everyone. To the young savior in the castle, please don't do anything outrageous. I really don't want to have to worry about your magic going out of control. In this country is Il, who's fighting to protect the country's peace. That Il has become an important person to me, so I'm no longer able to abandon this country the way I would have when I first arrived. I can't quietly use great magic, and while I considered using great magic to put up a barrier before anything happens, in this country whenever someone mentions a savior, they mean the girl in the castle. If people think she did it, it'll probably make things even worse. I can only guess based on what I've heard from Il and God, but she seems like the type who would tell everyone she casted the spell and use it as an excuse to act even more selfishly. Ah, I give up. Il seemed rather resentful of the savior, saying she was just playing around and doing whatever she wanted. But I'm exactly the same. Because even though I have the ability to save this country, I've been hiding away and immersing myself in my beloved reading. If he found out I was a savior, I wonder what he would do. I don't want him to hate me. I never thought I would agonize over love this much at 33. I glance over to my calendar. The day marked, Aurora Festival, is now tomorrow. Maybe I'll look for something to wear tomorrow. Meanwhile in the palace, the young prince tried to convince the savior. You haven't even touched your spell books. I've told you, if you want to stay in the palace, you need to learn a spell by tomorrow. Please, time's running out. Just one spell will do. All right. But the girl didn't reply. She was standing like a stone. And the next evening, he arrived at the same time as usual. It's refreshing to see him in casual clothes, rather than a uniform. Seeing the brooch pinned to his cloak made me a little happy. As he approached on his horse, I called out to him, "It's nice to see you again." "Yeah, it's nice to see you too. I actually wanted to come here earlier so I could spend some time here before we leave, but I only barely finished my work in time." "Oh, are you all right to go?" "Yeah, I wanted to go with you no matter what. I'm relieved I finished in time." Oh, thank you." He smiles at me warmly, and I feel my face heat up. Il offers a hand to me from atop his horse and I take it without thinking, only to feel weightless for a moment. The next thing I knew, I was sitting on Il's horse, in front of him. Wait, we can go by horse like this. There's a horse stable near the grounds reserved for the festival. That part's fine with me, but, he's so close. Il is so close to me. We're incredibly close to each other, and we're so high up. Right, she's a war horse. I knew Il's horse was big, but the ground feels so far away. It's so high. Sorry, are you okay with this? He asked. I'm fine, but this is the first time I've ever been on a horse, so I was just surprised. She likes you too, so she won't drop you. Just hold on to me. That actually makes me more nervous, I think, though I can't say that. Did he really lift me all the way up here with one arm? I knew he was strong and he had big hands, but this is too much. I suddenly become aware of the arm wrapped around me to support me. What is this, a manga or something? Is there a demand for love stories like in manga but with women in their 30s? I'm jostled by Il's horse while my mind races faster than I can keep up with in my confusion. After some time we arrive at what appeared to be the festival grounds, and that heavenly, but in a way hellish time ended. It's nearly pitch black out, and there are people around, but it's relatively quiet for the number of people here. It's really quiet here. It starts with everyone just watching the aurora at first. The aurora disappears after about an hour, and then any shops and stalls open from then on. Oh, I see. Are you okay with walking a bit? We can go to the place I watch from every year, where it's quiet. Like a clearing. Sure. Yeah, let's go. The fact that we hold hands unconsciously makes me a little happy. We go up an incline, Il leading the way, and emerge at the top of a small hill. It feels like it's just the two of us. It's a place surprisingly spacious in the middle of the growing trees on the hill. It's amazing. You can see the whole sky so clearly, unlike anywhere else. Yeah, my longtime friend told me about it before. Is that friend not coming? He's the vice knight captain, so every year we switch shifts for guarding the royal family. Well, he says he doesn't mind either way because guarding the royal family means guarding his fiancée, the princess. Oh, I see. Then it sounds like there's going to be a special announcement soon in this country. Yeah. Oh, so his longtime friend is a man, I think, realizing exactly how in love I am. One of the reasons I thought love was a pain was that specific aspect. The old me wouldn't have even been able to imagine myself thinking this much about one person, let alone in another world. I glance up towards the sky, where the aurora still hasn't appeared. In the middle of the forest, we watch the sky together. My hand feels hot in his. Even though we've already arrived at our destination and we don't have to hold hands, he makes no motion to let go. It feels like he's thinking of me. It feels like the fact that we're still holding hands makes that possibility a little more likely. Is it okay to hope that maybe he doesn't want to let go of my hand either? It's starting now. At Ill's words, I look up at the sky. It was a sight I couldn't put into words. A curtain of light spread across the sky, from one edge to the other, high and low. An aurora that, thanks to the sharp chill in the air, drifted through the sky, burying the brightly shining stars in a flood of light. Who would have thought there was something so beautiful in this country, where I live? My eyes meet with Ill, who's looking at me with a gentle expression. Do you like it? Very much so. Thank you for bringing me here, Ill. I'm glad you like it. I can see the aurora past Ill's gently smiling face. It feels like I'm looking at something incredibly important and precious, and I almost think I'm going to cry. Ah, it's no good. I really do like him. I feel his hand squeezes mine more than ever before. And just as Ill, smiling at me, opened his mouth as if to say something, a thunderous booming drowned out all of the stillness. I jolt in surprise, before I'm pulled close to Ill, his arms wrapping around me as if to drown me in his chest. The ground shook, allowing me no time to be startled, and I desperately clung to Ill. When I finally raise my head, I can see the sky, soaked in an ominous bright red. As if puncturing the now faint curtain of light, giant flaming rocks began raining down, coming our way. Eek! Even though I can see the boulders closing in on us, my body is frozen. I'm pulled even tighter against Ill, and I can see Ill's arm directed towards the sky. From his hand, water droplets flew towards the falling boulder, sending it flying. Sukina, are you okay? I'm okay. It took all my effort just to get the words out. What on earth? I hear a voice echoing from against Ill's chest, as he continues to keep watch around us. It seems he took out his transmitter. Ill, you okay? Bjork. I'm fine. What about you? What happened? It's the savior. She did this. My stomach dropped at the words coming from the other side of the transmitter. When I look up at the sky, I see a faint magic circle in the red sky. It's the same one I saw in the book, the magic circle when a savior's magic goes out of control, with the savior's mark in it. Ill, looking up at the sky just like me, notices the savior's mark, and shouts into the transmitter. What do you mean? The prince said he'd persuade her. Right, but it seems somehow our savior'd rather the country be destroyed than her have to learn magic. What an amazing savior. Within the bitter sarcasm of the person on the other end of the transmitter, a small, high voice echoes out. Why? Mommy and Daddy said I could do whatever I want. They said I don't have to do anything I don't wanna do. I keep saying I don't wanna study, but everyone's trying to make me. And locking me in my room. I'm not Ba. The voice that came through the transmitter sounded almost like a child throwing a temper tantrum, until a dull sound cut that voice off. Hey, Bjork, what happened? The prince stabbed the savior. Prince, please stand back. Shit, Ill, the savior's still alive, a second wave is coming. Hey, Bjork. The sound of an explosion rings out as the transmission cuts off. From a short distance away, we hear screams. It was almost like a scene from hell, with flaming boulders falling from the sky, towards the expanding forest below us. A huge shadow appears from above us, and a small scream escapes from my throat. Once again, Ill deflects the boulder hurtling towards us with magic, and his face contorts as he shouts. What? Just what are saviors good for? What are you saving us from? You're just selfishly manipulating us and taking what you want. I realize this is the first time I've seen him truly angry. This is why I said I can't be a savior. Right now I actually have magic, and I can put up a barrier, and I can spray water like him too. This isn't a book or a game. This is the reality when I've been suddenly hit with a catastrophe. In contrast to the heat in my chest, the inside of my head is suddenly cold. I stopped shaking. In my head, I recall my conversation that day with God. But, let's see, if for example her magic went out of control but you were able to contain it with your barrier magic, then it would be possible for me to retrieve her without the country being destroyed. Even if the country was ultimately saved, it would mean she had still nearly destroyed it. Like I said, whatever you decide is your choice. You should live as you like. I look at Il, his breath ragged as he protects me, searching for some way out of this. The one person who I met and fell in love with after I came to this world. Ah, I wonder if he'll hate me. Hey, Il, what's wrong, are you hurt? He looks at me, eyes filled with concern, and I smile at him. Even if I can't act for someone I don't know, I can for him. It's okay, he's protecting me right now. I won't die before I can activate my magic. No matter what, he's always providing me with safety. I like you, huh? He looks at me in surprise, as if in disbelief of what he's seeing, and I smile at him again. Please don't hate me, please, my heart cries out. So, I know it'll probably be difficult, but I hope you don't hate me. Tears fall from my eyes. This is pathetic, I can't even control my emotions like a proper adult. I remove myself from his loosened grasp, and gently raise my hands towards the sky. If I could have, if you would have let me, I would have hidden it and kept smiling with you. Magic gathers in my fingertips. I see my hair glowing and waving around in my peripheral. Surprised, Il's gaze moves from my face to over my head, where the sign of a savior, the savior's mark, must be visible in the air. That girl's magic circle, mine expands, spreading across the sky with incredible speed. The red light of her magic is flung away and dispelled by my silver great magic barrier. In addition, I saw light falling from the barrier, healing the destroyed forest, and likely healing the wounds of the people inside the barrier as well. Inside my head, God's voice rings out. I will retrieve her now. Thank you for protecting this world. I'm sorry, I didn't do it for you, I think to myself as I turn to face Il again. The magic stopped flowing from my fingers, and the savior's mark disappeared along with the glow. In the sky, the barrier remained, with the savior's mark inside it, proof that it was the work of a savior. I looked over at Il, still too surprised to move, and opened my mouth. I'm sorry for hiding it. The festival was really fun, thank you for taking me. Tsukina, that marking, the great magic. Are you a savior, too? I'm going back to the cafe. Her magic should be gone now, but be careful getting back, I say, not answering his question. I'm too afraid to wait for his reaction, so I quickly turn on my heel and grip the waiting teleportation magic intermediary. I'm weightless for a moment, and then the familiar cafe is around me. All of the energy leaves my body, and I slide to the ground right there. I wonder if I'm dizzy because of my emotions. No. God did say that using great magic once would leave me bedridden for several days due to magic deficiency. But one use of it should create a great magic barrier that will hold for decades, so this country should be secure for a while. Using my arms, I manage to drag myself to the sofa in the cafe and collapse into it. I let out a sigh when I feel the soft cushions against my back. Now he knows he probably won't come back anymore. Or if he does, it'll be on official business. It's hard to imagine the country would just leave the existence of a savior be. Even though, I can't do anything. Even today, the only reason I was able to act was because I was safe in his arms, because I didn't want the person I love to be sad. Yeah, love. The ceiling light in my vision blurs and I can't see anymore. The world goes black, and I'm led into a deep sleep. I wonder if anything will have changed when I wake up. That's what I had thought as I closed my eyes, but as it turns out, nothing has changed. Having just opened my eyes, my vision was still blurry, but there was one thing I noticed. Something smells nice. What is this? It was like flowers, a nice smell, and I closed my eyes once again before slowly opening them. I rub my eyes, still in a daze from just waking up, and sit up. Are you awake? I hear a familiar voice, and suddenly the sleepiness is gone. I jumped up to see his familiar face, smiling somewhat awkwardly yet warmly. Along with the huge bouquet of flowers in his arms. So that's where the red color and nice smell were from. Yeah, first, these are for you. Huh, my head is still reeling, but the flowers are pushed toward me, and laid on my lap. He looks straight at me, and his eyes are just like always, filled with kindness and determination. He's looking at me like he can see right into me, and my eyes can't leave him. You beat me to it, but that day I was planning to tell you too. But first, I didn't tell anyone that you're a savior, and no matter what your answer is, I don't intend to. His gentle smile is exactly the same as it was that night, when we were watching the aurora together. I like you. If it isn't too late, if you still like me, I would like to court you. I don't know if I'm struggling to process his words because I'm still low on magic or because I never thought I would hear them. Even though I was hiding something from you this entire time. You mean about being a savior? I was surprised, but after I thought about it, I only thought that I should have noticed from how strong your magic is, and the fact that you didn't know about the biggest festival in the country. Well, if this is just because you want me to cooperate with something, I'm not. Surprisingly, that didn't even occur to me. Do you know why I didn't tell anyone that you're a savior? To put it plainly, the entire country is searching for you. Because of the great magic barrier in the sky, everyone knows that there's another savior other than that girl. The country wants to officially welcome you. I'm silent, my thoughts racing as I process the fact that my prediction was right. Seeing my expression, Il's smile turned wry. Tsukina, you're from a different world so you may not know, but in this world polygamy is perfectly acceptable so long as it's mutual among those involved. And as a savior who can use great magic, there will likely be numerous suitors coming from other countries to ask for your hand in marriage. Connections with a savior is something every country is desperate for. I don't like the idea of that. I want you to be mine. I can't even believe it myself, but that's the only reason I'm keeping your identity secret. The heat doesn't leave my face, and my hand feels hot in his grasp. My heart is pounding so hard I feel like I might die. Are you sure? I ask from him. He continued, yes, that's why I'm here. I had given up on ever seeing Il's smile again, but here he was, with the same smile right in front of me. This is completely beyond anything I could have hoped for. But the only feeling in my heart is pure happiness. My feelings haven't changed. So, I'd like to go out with you. I think the end of my sentence was nothing more than a whisper. I've never received such a big bouquet before. Suddenly the outline of the flowers distorts in my vision. This timing is awful, I think, overcome with drowsiness again. You still haven't recovered your magic, right? You should rest. But, you came all this way. Even before I can finish my sentence, my vision is starting to go dark. I took the day off, I'll still be here when you wake up. This country's peace is safe for the next several decades, and it's all thanks to your great magic. You should take your time and recover. I see Il smile and say, when you wake up we'll talk, before I close my eyes. He rubs my head gently, and it's relaxing. I surrender my body to the sleepiness, realizing the days I thought would never come back have now returned, even more blissful than before. Thank you for bringing peace to this country, my savior. The corner of my mouth twitches with a smile as I use the last of my energy to say, stop with that. In the end, Il really didn't tell anyone about me. The prince who stabbed the savior requested a punishment, saying it was his fault the country was almost destroyed. But not a single person wished the death penalty on the prince, the person who tried to fix the problem with his own hands by stabbing the girl with a sword, so he was only confined to the castle for several years and made to redo his various studies. More than anything else, the entire country was worked up trying to find the other savior. Il saved my identity. He only introduced me to his childhood friend as his girlfriend. And one thing that had changed since that day was that Il and I officially became engaged. Il introduced me to his parents as well. He took me to a village snowier than here, but warmer, where he grew up. I was so worried about making a good impression, but Il's parents immediately welcomed me. Or rather, they kind of pulled me into their family immediately. The first few hours included them thanking me tearfully, explaining that they had given up on Il getting married. I ended up spending the entire time desperately trying to comfort them, while Il sat next to me with a lifeless look in his eyes. I never would have expected that in a world different from the one I was born in, I would end up with a new family. My other new home, and my new family. A new part of Il's life was moving to my cafe, and he started commuting from here to the castle for work. Like living together before we get married. I decided to take on the additional job of supplying the knights with barrier charms and drinks with restoration magic as well. Even if I can't publicize that I'm a savior, there are still things I can do for the people in this country. The items I supply seem to be highly valued by the knights, and along with the fact that I'm the captain's future wife, they're very kind to me. My life continues, filled with the happiness of being able to say welcome home to the beloved person I met in this world, the person I came to love, while hiding that I'm a savior. The barrier is still there, but that doesn't mean that all of the monsters have been eradicated, and there's also some demon king out there. Even so, while I know it's selfish, I have no intention of changing the life I have right now, which is overflowing with happiness. So to the saviors in other countries, and the new saviors that will probably be summoned from here on. I leave protecting this world's peace to you. Because right now, I have my hands full protecting the happiness I have here. I'm home, Sukina, welcome home, ill. I savor the happiness I feel looking at his gentle smile. From now on, until I die, I will live in this world. But, I'm sorry, I've decided I will leave the role of being a savior to the young people. Delicious food, a mountain of books, and a comfortable chair surrounded by antique decorations. My book cafe, filled with the dreams that began in this world, and the person I love with all my heart. In this world, in my ideal cafe, I will continue to live with the person I love, for now and forever. The story ends here, my dear friends. I've created some adorable stickers and badges just for you all, and I'd love to share them with you. If you like what you see, don't wait, join our amazing community today and be part of something special. Thank you for my friends for joining.